Byna, as you know, I've only been in corporate America for about 2 years, and there's a ton that I've noticed just being at LinkedIn. What were some of the things that you really noticed about women in the workplace when you first started just a little over 2 decades ago? Was it how they were treated, how they were related to by men? Tell us a little bit more.
So first, when you said 2 decades, I just felt my age, but that's okay. So really though, when I think about that, Cherie, the one thing that I noticed that was more prevalent when I first started my career in corporate America was that women leaders tended to mimic some of their male counterparts. They didn't show a lot of empathy. They felt that they had gotten ahead because they were accepted with the boys, and so that's where the way that they treated us. They didn't show their authentic selves, their motherly side in the workplace. They didn't show that empathy or sympathy that we now believe is our superpower as women. So I believe that the one difference is that women now believe they can be authentic. They can show vulnerability. They can show that they're mothers, wives, caregivers, and bosses. And that's what really is empowering to me. And hopefully, when you were my intern, that I was vulnerable enough to show you that, yeah, there's some days where I don't have it together and that I have to leave work and running and figure out what to do with the kids and how to get them to soccer practice, and also show that empathy to my employees and show them that there's a different way that you will be managed when you're led by women leaders. And hopefully it creates a space and place where people to bring their authentic selves to work, be vulnerable, know that their boss has empathy and understanding and care, and make sure that they feel like they're valued for every part of who they are in their essence.
Byna, I really love your authenticity. I think that that was something that you showed me just in our short time as your intern, but definitely is something you showed your team. Now, I want to fast forward to today. When you think about, what women look like and what you even experienced in your early years in corporate America, fast forwarding to today, you are the Chief Enterprise Responsibility Officer for Fifth Third Bank. You are one of the few leaders and few women in C-suite. What else have you seen that's changed outside of, empathy and authenticity and leadership?
Believe it or not, one of our barriers was actually just our dress code. If you can imagine, when I started in my corporate career, our uniform were skirt suits, heels, hosiery, and nothing else, not even a dress. And so we were carrying and lugging packages and briefcases, computers, printers around in this uniform. And it was very different than our male counterparts in terms of how they could get around and maneuver. And I think one day, one of my coworkers, we were lamenting around the challenges of lugging all that equipment into a company that we were auditing. And she might have torn her skirt and ruined her hosiery. And we were just really struggling. And one of the young ladies, it was right when pantsuits were out. And she said her mom had bought her a pantsuit, but she couldn't wear it because that wasn't our uniform. And we talked about it and we said, why don't you take a chance for all of us? You wear a pantsuit and we'll see what happens. And if you don't get it challenged, we'll all go buy pantsuits that night and come back in the next day. And it's small now, but that was a revolution for us. So she wore that pantsuit. The men didn't fall out their chairs. They didn't say a word. It was business as usual. But one of our colleague, women senior auditors, pulled her into the office and asked her, where did she get that pantsuit from? And who told her that she could wear pants to work? And she said, it's not in the dress code, because we looked it up. It wasn't in the dress code that we couldn't wear pants. It was just assumed. And so she said, oh, well, be careful. When she came back in the room, we said, well, what happened? She explained to us what happened. We said, she didn't say you can't wear it. She just told you to be careful, right? She said, yep, just be careful. We all went out that night, all us 28, 29-year-old young ladies, and bought pantsuits and walked in the building the very next day in pantsuits. And that was huge for us, just to be able to maneuver and know that you could have the right clothing and be effective at your work and it not take away from your professionalism. The second barrier, if I'm being honest, was around family planning. And when I think about it now, I can't believe it. But my very first time I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, I did not let my employer know I was pregnant until my 9th month, the day my doctor told me I had to leave work. And I went in their office and said that I'm pregnant. And they said, oh, great, congratulations. When's your last day? When's the baby due? And I said, today's my last day because my doctor's pulling me off and the baby's due any day. I'd worn big clothes and not shared that I was pregnant because I didn't want to lose any opportunity and I didn't want them to perceive that I was a short timer, wasn't serious about my work, and that I would turn down or not be considered for opportunity because I was going to be a mother. And so that family planning is a big issue for women. And it's a concern because they don't want to be seen as different and not as serious. But in fact, sometimes people make decisions around your capabilities, your ability to stay in the game and get your work done and lead and manage others when they believe that you have other responsibilities or priorities. Not true. But when you're in this world, in corporate America, and you see how some women don't get their promotions timely, like their male counterparts, because of their family planning, or hey, she's not as he or she's not as serious because she's a mother now. You really are cautious around sharing and oversharing your plans for your future and your family's future.
Byna, one of the things that I have always valued about you is your authenticity. When I was your intern years ago, I remember our conversation where I really wanted to be casual in the workplace, and you were very insistent that I still needed to be professional, even though I wanted to be authentic and showcase my personality. But I really want to pivot here because women are experiencing so many bigger issues today, from motherhood to upward advancement to understanding what they really want to do in their career. Is it a different industry, a different role? What role or initiative have you really impacted that has made it a lot easier for women, not only at your company, but just women all over?
So Cherie, if I'm really clear, the conversation you and I had, and I remember it vividly, was you being super fly and beautiful. And I said, that is appropriate, but sometimes you have to wear the uniform. And we had this big discussion, and you were not speaking to me for about a day. And then you came back and said, my mom said you were right. And so I get it. And so I'm really proud. When I look at you now, I'll go, wow, look at you. You're amazing. You're beautiful. You're polished. You still have your magic, but you also show up in a way. Because when we had that discussion, we talked about getting to the room first. That if you never get in the room, you can never make a difference. You can never make change. You can never create space for another woman. And so sometimes we have to conform a little bit in our corporate cultures and our norms so that we can be taken seriously. And then we can command and get in these spaces and places where we're not, and then create more space for others. And that's, to me, is important, is that as a leader in my organization, that I am clear that when I get in rooms where I'm the only one and I know that there's opportunity to bring others in the room, that I show up fully, that I use my voice. I ask questions about why am I the only one in this room? And where's their opportunity? And who do I need to connect with, mentor, sponsor, and understand when there's an opportunity and seizing that opportunity and sharing with other women about getting ready and how do they need to be prepared. And I also think it's important is to have real honest feedback. And that's one of the challenges that you face when you have men leaders. Sometimes they don't want to be authentic with their feedback. They tell you everything's great, you're doing a good job. And I challenge my peers and coworkers to say, make your boss give you real feedback. Ask him a question or her a question. Say, if I'm doing such a great job, when there's another promotion and opportunity in the department, will I get that shot? And if the answer is not a yes, then there's more to the feedback than you're getting. And so you have to get that real feedback. You also have to be authentic with other people in the room to tell them things that you need to work on to improve or to increase your opportunities, and ask them for meaningful feedback and be your accountability partner. I can tell you that I get my feedback when I'm open and honest around what do I need to work on, and going back to my leader or partner and saying, I did this in the meeting. Can you give me some feedback? And telling them I'm thin skinned and I'm not okay. I'm not scared of improving and taking chances and learning more. But in order for me to succeed, I need the real feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, so that I can move forward. And that's really important. The one thing that I've done over the last 2 years that I'm extremely proud of is in 2018, I was named the first African American woman to join the bank's management committee. So you could say, oh, great job, and pat myself on the back. But the reality is I was heartbroken. I was heartbroken that it was 2018 and I was the first, and that I didn't see necessarily a path for more women to follow. And I knew that I wouldn't be there last, and I was determined to make sure I wasn't the last. So I started a group of African American women leaders in our organization. So you say, hey, you're in the C-suite. So I went back and got the D and E employees that were in banded roles that were 2 layers below the C-suite. And I pulled them together. At the time, it was 15 women across a 20,000 employee organization. There were 15 women that were ED band employees. And I said, we now have a tribe. You might be the only person in your department. You might go weeks and months without seeing another Black woman. But now you need to know that we are here and we are supportive of each other. We focused on 4 things: career development, exposure and experience, recruitment and retention of others, Black women, and fun. Because I do think that when you're in these places, it can be exhausting sometimes to represent. And sometimes you just need to have a place where you can be your whole authentic self and know that your sisters are going to cover off on you and support you and cheer you on. And so I'm proud to say 2 years later, from being the first, we now have 3 other Black women. So it's 4 of us at management committee. And that my women's group that started off with 15 women are now 30 strong. We've doubled the number of women in that band, and we are not done. And so this is one of my most proudest moments. And just this week, we had our meeting where we did a reach back, each one bring one. So every one of our AWOT members brought an up and coming young lady to our quarterly meeting. And it's so important to say, I see you, I see potential in you, you've got next, and we're all cheering for you. And that meant a lot. I got 30 emails or 40 emails from women who attended that event last week telling me how important it was to see themselves and that representation mattered and that they were inspired and encouraged and pumped up to know what they could do in this organization because of that women tribe and that network. So it's one of my most proudest moments, one, to increase women leaderships at the management committee level from me to 3 other women, and to double the ranks of women leaders in our organization, Black women leaders in our organization, from 15 to 30, and to be authentic and pushing forward and creating space for all of us as women to thrive.
Honestly, Byna, while you were speaking, I got a little emotional because number one, I'm jealous. I'm jealous because I wish I could have been in that room. One of the things that I love so much about you is that your focus has always been on reach back. Whether it was me, it's women at Fifth Third, you have always done that. And I think that that is incredible, speaks such volumes to your character. And I'm just so honored to hope that one day someone will see something in me just like you did to say you've got next. So honored to know you. So thank you for that. One of the things that I thought about is, as you were talking is, now we have these forums, where everything is virtual. Women are concerned. Women are trying to, mother their children while on a Zoom call, or thinking about, if I take some time to really invest in my family, invest in, them learning virtually, will I not get that promotion? Will I not be able to climb upward? What are some of the challenges or things that you're seeing that we still have yet to work on, even in spite of the amazing work that you're doing, whether it's being more of in a friendly environment, being in an environment that women feel comfortable raising and having their families? What are the challenges that you see?
I will say that it's come a long way, and I'm seeing Because of the pandemic, acceleration and acknowledgement of opportunities and policies and procedures that might have been have had unintentional consequences from a racial disparity, gender disparity perspective. And if you think about today and the stats that we're seeing, where more than 40% of our women workforce might opt out because of the responsibilities and challenges of managing their family and home life due to the pandemic, we have to say, not on our watch, right? We have to say, how can we be more intentional? How can we ensure that their voices and the needs and the accommodations of our workplace are flexible and fluid enough to adjust, pivot, and support our women in the workplace? Because we can't go back. If we lose 40%, that's decades for us. That is tremendous loss of talent, brain drain, and opportunity that we can't allow to happen. And so, one of the things that's really important is that when we're talking about women talent, I have learned something over the last few months in this pandemic world is I am intentional around saying names and reminding people that besides me, who is sitting in the room talking to you, there are squads and squads and squads of women leaders that are making a difference. And while they might not be in this room, they're out there. And we have to remind them of how important our talent is in our organization. So one of the things that I do is I literally write down names and people who have made a difference on projects that I might be the presenter, I might be the voice around a business case, but I didn't do it alone. And so it's so important to say that person's name, talk about the work and how they contributed to it, and then also spend a lot of time with your women leaders in our organization and women employees. And I called every single one of my employees, regardless of their age, gender, or race. But I spent a lot of time with my women leaders saying, I need you to tell me what might be challenges that you have to manage through. Does not mean you can't get it done. It just means I have to be flexible. So if you are now homeschooling from 9 to 1, I want you to log off, focus on your family from 9 to 1, and let's pick that work up this afternoon or in the evening. I don't care when you get it done, and I don't care how you get it done. So I'm not checking on you, and I'm not checking in on you about your work. I trust that you will get it done. I trust that you're professional enough. Let's focus on the outcomes and what we need to achieve and not the hours you have to put in and the way you get it done. And I also need you to tell me when you are drowning and you need help. I need to throw you a life jacket or send a boat for your rescue. I'm okay with that. I'm not judging you because we all have responsibility and this pandemic is unprecedented. So we have to be flexible. We have to be encouraging. We have to sometimes just say, I'm calling to check on you. I'm not checking on the work, I'm checking on you. I'm asking you to take time for yourself, have some self care. If you have to unplug, do so. So I literally had a meeting about 2 weeks ago that was a meeting, no meeting, where I put a DJ in a Zoom room, a meditation in another room, and a kick it room. And then I told him, if you just need to just unplug and go take a nap, go do that for an hour. This is about me restoring you and acknowledging that this is unprecedented time and the weight and the world is on our shoulders. And I need to care for you and create space for you to be you so that you don't opt out because it's too much. That you don't throw in the towel before you've reached your potential and that you don't recognize that we can accommodate your work life in this new norm so that you can still be engaged and be there for your parent, for your family or your children or your parents if you're the caregiver of them.
Byna, one of the things that I struggle with is sometimes showing up authentically and really living in my truth in the workplace. And you've done an incredible job of that just from what I've seen. talk about how it's been really being authentic when it's been really hard to be a woman in the workplace, and some of the things that you've done to really overcome that, or even if you're still overcoming, some of the things that you put into practice to make that journey easier.
I wish I'd say I solved it all, Cherie, because there's some times that I also struggle with it, right? And I can think of a time we were working on a really big project and we were doing an ops meeting with our leaders in the bank. And we were working really long hours, staying late, coming in early. And we were doing that so that we would be prepared. And I was one of the few women leaders in our organization at the time. And we worked and were preparing for this meeting. And we probably went to about 7 or 8 o'clock that night. And they said, well, let's get at this first thing in the morning. And they said, how about 6 o'clock? And I thought, 6 o'clock? What? For me to get up, for me to be in the office at 6 o'clock, it will require my entire village to help me. Latchkey doesn't open up till 7. I will have to leave my house by 4:30 or 5 o'clock, drop my children off at my mother's house, have her get them ready for school just to be present. And so I did it. I didn't say a word because I wanted to show up, and I wanted my boss and my peers to think I had the same work-life opportunity that they did. So they didn't know that I had to cover off like a mother, like I have to cook dinner every night. I have to do homework when I got home. I just never used to let them see me sweat. So I did it. I rushed in that office. By the next morning, I got there probably 10 minutes to 6 o'clock. So I was there, present and ready. They sauntered in, the fellas in the group sauntered in. They talked sports for 20 minutes. They laughed and they joked. They went and got coffee. And I don't know if you could see, but there was smoke coming out of my ears because I was that fired up. Because what it took for me to get into the workplace, I don't believe they had the same experience I had. And so I sat there just simmering and upset because I had done a lot to show up like they showed up without a care in the world and looking unbothered and ready to get to work. And after we got done, 30 minutes into the presentation, we started really getting the work done. So they said, got great progress. Can we do this again tomorrow? I think my head might have spun around. I was sitting right next to my boss, and I leaned over and said, I'm the wife. And he said, huh? What'd you say? I said, I'm the wife. What you expect your wife to do to make this easy for you to get to work every day, that's what my husband expects for me. And it is a challenge for me to do this and be a mother and a wife every day. So I can't get in here at 6 o'clock anymore. And he said, what time works? I said 7:30, because that would allow me enough time to get to the latchkey, drop them off. It wouldn't require my entire village to help me get it done. And so he didn't embarrass me. He didn't say, Byna can't make it, so let's move the time back. He said, hey, you guys, how about 7:30 instead of 6? And they were like, yep, that works even better for us. And I actually had some of my male coworkers come up to me later and says, thank you for saying something, because it was a challenge for me as well. And that let me know that sometimes you have to say something. You have to use your voice. You have to share your real lived experiences so it could change the opportunity for others. We never had another 6 o'clock call for a meeting after that. And after that, my boss will look at me and say, well, that time worked for you. Never embarrassed me, never blew me up, but acknowledge that my lived experience to be in the workplace was different. And that accommodation for me allowed me to stay and have a great career. And I also think it meant that they were more empathetic to other women who had the same challenges. I had done it for so many years and never let them see me sweat. And by me showing up and saying, this was difficult, this wasn't as easy as you think it is, and that I have a set of responsibilities that I don't walk in this door with, that we don't talk about, but my experience to get to the workplace is different than yours, was important for me to have that moment. And I had it because I was frustrated, because change only happens when you're sick and tired, when you're upset, when you can't take anymore. And that was where I was at in my career, where I just knew that if I didn't speak up, I was gonna might have to make a different decision about my work and my career and my opportunity because I just didn't have any more in me. I just couldn't do it again.
Byna, I personally just want to say thank you. I know that you have not only inspired me today, but you have inspired so many women who are watching this. And now we have real life examples that we can leave this conversation with, not only in the workplace, but acknowledging ourselves, speaking our truth, saying something, and really acknowledging the fact of how far we've come, but also that there are strides that we still have yet to make, that the women who are a part of this conversation today can be a part of that just as you were.
So I'm hopeful because I do the work every day, that I intentionally talk to and support other women leaders, that I never say no to a request. If you say, I need to talk to you, you can text me, you can call me, I will make time for you. I'm never too busy. And so, because I spent a lot of time coaching, mentoring, sponsoring, plotting, planning on opportunities for women, I am hopeful because I'm not tired. I've not gotten faint. I am clear that this world is better when we're in it, that these companies are better when we're in it, that our leadership and our way and our ability to help and grow the workforce is important when women leaders are there and present. And so if I thought for a moment that we were going to take a step back, I'd pedal a little harder, I'd run a little faster. We can't afford it. When you have women leaders, companies are so much different and they're so much better off, and the performance is so much better that we will lose both financially and morally if we don't have women leaders growing, developing, and expanding their reach and going into places and departments and functions that we've not been in before. It's so important that we do that, that we look at places where we still see that they're male dominated and say, why not one of us? Why isn't your candidate slate more diverse? How do I know more women that can take that job? I literally keep a list of women that I can give to somebody when they say they're looking for talent. And usually it's women or diverse talent that I keep a list of because there's plenty of white males around, and that's the truth, that can take a slot. But we sometimes look like unicorns in the room, and people have circles, and they hire and connect with people from their circle. So I try to make sure I have a circle that's diverse. I try to make sure that my circle is diverse in thought, lived experience, gender, and race, so that I can say, I got somebody for that job, or that I at least can introduce a different talent set into an opportunity.
So I want to thank you. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you, and I hope we get to do this again soon.
Absolutely. Can I just say, Cherie, how proud I am of you and your accomplishments, to know that you've come so far. And I always say this to you, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. My biggest goal is to work for you one day. And I know for a fact that either you're going to be managing my money because you're going to be a CEO of some company that I've got stock in, or I'm going to call you and say, I just need a little job because I'm in my horizon of my life. And you just hire me for a little bit. Like, I know I'm going to be working for you. Or you're going to be managing some part of my life where I'm going, my stock is going up because Cherise is in charge.